outside again, counting birds, and Mama plugged in a nightlight, and I saw the queen of the world.
Hi, and welcome to the Golden Hour Birth Podcast. Welcome back. I am your co-host, Liz.
And I'm your other co-host, Natalie. And tonight we have our Resurgens Postpartum mom, Christina, on. And she'll be telling the birth of her two children. And she is a mom coach, kind of helping prepare moms for postpartum. So we're super excited to dive in to how her births kind of got her to her work today.
Hi, Christina.
How's it
Good. Welcome to the show. So we're going to start a new little segment, starting off this episode with a little Natalie pregnancy update. And today she's sharing some big news with us.
Yes. About 2 hours ago, I found out that we're having a baby girl.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited for you.
I can't believe it, but also feeling so sick. And so I was like, if this is not a girl, I don't know how. It's just crazy how different it's already been.
You've been saying that from the get-go.
I know.
But it was so different.
So different.
But this is really crazy because our husbands have two other brothers. So there's 4 boys.
Yeah.
And on their dad's side, there were 4 boys. And so when our other sister-in-law had their first girl, our mother-in-law was like, oh my God, she's going to be the only girl. There's not going to be any other girls. And then I had Vivian. And so now we're all going to have a boy and a girl.
It's really exciting. Way to go, Sam. You did it.
Yeah. That's so exciting.
Yeah. And we'll keep sharing these. And I'll be open and honest with all of our listeners. So let me know if you guys have any questions.
Yay.
But we can go ahead and jump into Christina's story. So, Christina, if you want to share with our listeners a little bit about you and your family and kind of where you guys are from.
So, I'm Christina. Hey, guys. I live in Atlanta with my husband and 2 boys. So, my oldest is about 3 and a half, and my younger son is 15 months old. We live in Atlanta. I am kind of stepping out of the education world. I've been a teacher for 10 years and student support coach and all kinds of different roles within the classroom, within school. And having kids kind of changed the trajectory of my career path. So I'm slowly leaving education. I still work part-time. And my husband works in healthcare technology.
Awesome. So if you want to go ahead and kind of share when you and your husband were kind of talking about babies and how that was like starting that process and getting pregnant.
Yeah. We've been married 9 years, which is wild. So when we got married, we're on a 2-year plan, and then that was hilarious. We got married very young. We were 24 when we got married, and we definitely did not have kids within 2 years. We started traveling a lot and loved all the trips we were doing, and kind of created a list of trips we really wanted to do before kids, knowing that life would change once kids came along. So we did all of those trips, and we went on a ski trip with a couple, and the plan was to start trying at the end of that summer. We were going to Thailand that summer, and then as soon as we got back from Thailand, we were we're going to start trying. But the ski trip was so fun. On the ski trip, I was we need to wait and do one more of these ski trips because it's going to be a while before we can do another one once we have kids. So we ended up waiting, I guess, 5 years, a little bit less than 5 years. I got pregnant right after our 5-year anniversary, or I found out right around then. So yeah, it was not super hard. I know a lot of people have, there's different trying to conceive experiences. Ours was not difficult, which I was very thankful for. And I had an easy first pregnancy, which was cool. We found out, and then 2 weeks later flew to London for a little vacation. So I was terribly sick on that trip.
Oh, no.
It was miserable. Like, my husband's like, oh, we're doing this fun first class trip. I mean, we planned it like way in advance. And I'm like, I get on the plane and they're like, would you like some champagne? And I was like, no.
Oh.
So it takes the whole flight and the trip. So
Ooh,
don't recommend, but it's okay.
that is like the last thing I could do right now. We just did like a 13-hour car ride, and I was like, this cannot end soon enough.
Yeah, that sounds not good.
No.
We're going to Italy for our 10-year anniversary, and we're like, we have one rule, and the rule is do not be pregnant in Italy. So
Oh, that's so fun.
got a year of do not mess this trip up.
Yeah,
Man.
I hear that. Yeah, my birthday is coming up and we're going to Mexico, and I'm like, yeah, no pregnancies. Nope.
And ideally, like, no nursing either, because that really throws wrenches in things. Kind of my 2 rules for my trip.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. You guys got to do all that traveling. What was your favorite trip?
Ooh. I mean, so we went to Singapore, Vietnam, and Thailand. That was amazing. Like, totally, obviously different cultures inside the world. My husband spent a lot of time over in Asia, so it was kind of like him getting to show me, like, places that he really loves. That was amazing. We've gone to Italy before, which while we were in Italy, I was like, we're coming back for our 10-year anniversary. So that was a really cool trip too. Like, Venice is amazing. I also really loved going to London. It's just like, I mean, we did all the touristy things, and now I'm like, let's go back and spend a week there and just like be people in London. And
Yeah,
not, like,
that's
have to rush
awesome.
to all these tourist places.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I just literally said all the places I've been. I did all my favorites. So that's not
I love it.
I love traveling and experiencing life the way other people live. So.
Yeah, that is so cool. So after you guys got back from London, you pretty much like had an easy pregnancy. You kind of want to go into that.
Yeah, first pregnancy was pretty easy. I mean, not like, had some high blood pressure concerns according to my doctor, but nothing major. I'm a CrossFitter, and so I was able to continue doing CrossFit throughout my entire pregnancy. My coaches were some of the first people I told that I was pregnant. Like, told them I was pregnant before I told my family. Because I was like, I need you guys to know why I like can't push myself because I'm dying. And so like they were responsible for keeping big secrets for me and like helping me kind of like navigate how to be an athlete and still have a safe, happy pregnancy, but also feel happy physically. So yeah, first pregnancy was pretty simple. And my sister had her baby in July right after we got home from London. And she was like really sketchy and didn't tell anyone in the family until she was like 22 weeks pregnant that she was pregnant at all. So as revenge, I did the same thing to my family because I was like, I can't believe you didn't tell me. I thought we were best friends. Like, you should have told me the day you found out. So we like kind of kept the secret from our family for quite a while, but we told several of our closer friends that we were expecting. So it was like a really exciting time, but it was nice to kind of like just keep that to ourselves for a while too.
Yeah. Oh man, I found out I was pregnant. Everybody knows.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't keep secrets. I can't do it.
That's a long
I
time.
think if I
Yeah.
have a third, I'm just gonna like tell everybody right away. Like with the first, I called a couple of my best friends immediately. Was like, oh my gosh, we're panicking. Oh, and this is funny. I thought it was funny. My friend had like a going away party before I got pregnant, and I was like, going away parties are fun. This is fun. So I told like offhand a friend of mine, I was like, I want to have a going away party, like a going away from drinking and socially living my life the way I do before I get pregnant. So like when I got home from that ski trip, and it was like February or something, my friends threw me a going away party. I just thought of it. I completely forgot about that party. But
That's
yeah,
funny.
like so
That's
a lot of
hilarious.
my friends knew I was trying. So a lot of those friends like we told pretty quickly because they like knew like, okay, she's like being taking birth control tomorrow after the party.
That's a good little transition.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that's like the silliest thing I've ever done. But like, you have kids young, you do crazy.
I love it. So,
Yeah, and the other, I guess, I don't know if this is unique about both of my pregnancies. We didn't find out the gender of our kids. I know, like, a lot of people find out what they're having and either choose to keep it to themselves or announce it, but we just decided, like, I'm really type A, but I also know, like, I can't control this, and regardless of whether we know or not, I can't control whether it's a boy or a girl. And there's very few surprises in life at this point, so I just decided we wanted to be surprised, and also I wanted just gender-neutral stuff because I'm cheap, and that way I could use it again. Our baby.
Yeah, same.
So we went that route. We had no clue with the first, and I had no idea. A bunch of friends of mine were pregnant at the same time. They were all having girls, so I kind of was crossing my fingers for a girl so that I would kind of be part of that group. But we ended up having a boy. So that was a surprise.
Yeah.
And then with the second pregnancy, it was similar. I felt a lot sicker. So I was kind of convinced it was going to be a girl. We were surprised again with the second one. But I had a lot more pain the second time around. Hopefully you don't experience that pain with your second pregnancy, but I had a lot of pubic symphysis pain.
Yeah.
Pain walking up and down stairs and things like that. So it really limited my exercise and things like that. I worked with a pelvic floor PT to help me kind of be able to do some things comfortably. But that was kind of my second pregnancy was a little harder in that way, just less comfortable. I was more tired because I was also chasing around a toddler. I wouldn't qualify it as super hard. I did not feel well the first trimester, but it went away. I got better.
Yeah.
So.
That pubic symphysis pain is no joke. Oh my God.
I didn't have it at all with the first, and with the second, I was like, I think I'm crippled.
Yeah.
I worked in a school that was 2 floors, and my office was on the second floor.
Oh.
And I'm a fit person. I like taking the stairs. I took the elevator.
Oh.
I was like, this is how you know it's bad. I'm taking the elevator to go up one. And it was really, really bad. And the elevator was often out of service, and I was like, I'm gonna work downstairs.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Don't you know I'm pregnant? Hello. Fix it.
Hello, fix it. Somebody carry me. No, but yeah, it was very uncomfortable. But definitely, my pelvic floor PT helped me kind of at least know how to manage it in a way that I could keep functioning. And if it started hurting, then I'd be like, okay, if I do X, Y, and Z, the pain will be less. So that was helpful.
That makes sense. Yeah, I wish pelvic floor PT was the norm when you're pregnant.
Honestly, I would love to tattoo that on my forehead. I didn't know what pelvic floor PT was before I had my first, or even after I had him for a while. And I mean, we'll talk about that when we talk about postpartum, but it sent me into a very dark place when I was having struggles with my pelvic floor.
Yeah.
I truly, I tell my PT all the time, you saved my life. And I believe it. And I tell all my friends to go to PT.
Yeah. I haven't done that yet, but I give everything to my chiropractor in that first pregnancy. Oh my God. I seriously couldn't love her enough. And I got her name from Liz. I thought she was wonderful.
Chiropractors can make a huge difference too. I never saw one. I probably should have. We took my son to a chiropractor. He had a funny shaped head.
Yeah.
And so they tried to work on he had torticollis. So he had a lot of body work his first year of life.
Yeah.
He still ended up with a helmet, but I also regularly recommend my clients take their babies to chiropractors because it can help with so much from reflux and constipation and stuff like that. It makes a huge difference for babies. So.
Oh yeah.
And adults, I just don't take care of myself. So.
I took my son in his first month, and he was such a better breastfeeder too. His latch was so good, and I was cool.
Yeah, because if you release all of those restrictions, then
yeah,
you can more comfortably latch. So it makes a big difference for tons of things.
Yeah.
I wish pediatricians weren't so anti-chiropractor. My pediatricians were no, terrible idea. But.
Yeah. Yeah. So interesting. Is there anything else you want to add from your pregnancies?
Honestly, they were so easy. I think it was one thing I will say that was really hard for me as someone who's pretty body conscious. I think a lot of women are, but it was really hard for me to have so many people comment on my body. I kind of went from being Christina to a pregnant woman. And I felt a lot of my identity became being pregnant. like every time I saw people, they'd be like, oh, I'm getting bigger. I'm like, oh, that's what every woman wants to hear. And that was really hard for me. It was even harder postpartum when people would be like, oh, look at you. Like, you are just losing all that weight. You don't even look like you had a baby. I was like, I feel a lot like I had a baby. And I know not everyone's experience is that they lose weight quickly, but like, I lost weight so quickly that it was unhealthy and unsafe. That's just what my body did. I didn't do it on purpose. But all that to say, like, the amount of comments I got on my body through my pregnancy and postpartum phases of life, unreal, and has been very unwanted. And I've had to work really hard to like set boundaries around that with people.
Mm-hmm.
Be like, hey, I know you're excited about my pregnancy and about my belly, but like, please don't comment on my size.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. It's like challenging to navigate because I don't like to step on people's toes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like I got a lot of that. And I think even like looking back at pictures, like I even tell myself how big I was because that's all I heard.
I thought you were really cute.
I didn't even take a ton of pregnancy photos because of how uncomfortable I felt about like being larger or like feeling like I was getting larger.
Mm-hmm.
Like I did my pregnancy photos with my first. He was born in February. I did the pictures like the end of November or beginning of December. So like 7 months, 6.5, 7 months pregnant. And I look back at the pictures. I'm like, I look really pregnant in those. Like, I kind of regret that, but I just felt so self-conscious. Everyone's like, you're getting huge. I was like, I better do this now. And yeah, I don't know. I think all the comments about my body really threw me off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think, like, let's just not comment on people's bodies ever.
Yeah.
Like, I still get it now, and I'm, almost, a year and a half out of my second. I'm like, I'm not focused on that right now. So like you telling me like, oh wow, you look so great. It's like, I don't know. I'm like, do I look different than I did last time? Because I don't know. It just makes me feel really self-conscious and like,
yeah. And well, for someone to say like, to comment about like, oh, you look so great, but then that kind of just like takes away the like, the how do you feel?
Mm-hmm.
Because you can, externally look great, look like you are a together mom, and internally feel like a bomb is going off.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like, especially once we have kids, kind of like the focus on like who we are and like our emotions and things like that just shifts away. Like nobody asks me how I'm doing anymore. They ask me about my kids.
Yeah.
And like even the people I ask to please ask about me forget and ask me about my kids. So it's just really hard, like in that respect, like our identity totally changes and like society treats us completely like our identity has changed.
yes. Yeah. And then we're just a vessel for carrying these babies.
You're no longer who you were before, you're now a mom.
Mm-hmm. But you have to work like
Unless
you don't have
like,
kids.
I was gonna say, unless you're in the like, working sector, then you better be who you were before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I remember like actually almost a year ago, like right at this time, Liz was 6 months postpartum and I was like 2.5 months postpartum. And we were both asked if we were pregnant again by like two like very different people, like, no relation or whatever. And I was like, no, just like haven't started trying to like lose the weight. Like just trying to keep a 2-month-old alive.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let's not.
Yeah, I don't even know how people think it's okay to talk about that. Like, I literally will train my voice to not comment on people's bodies because it's so inappropriate. And I mean, I like have had many conversations with my mom about like, hey, you can't say like this is not okay. You can't talk about my body like this.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about something else.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I'm glad we opened this conversation.
Societal thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm glad we opened this conversation. We really haven't had this conversation on here yet. So I think it was an important one. Yeah.
Super real.
So let's get into the birth story of your oldest.
Sure. So with my first, I will say I called it a birth wish list, but I had pretty strict plans of what my birth was going to be, even though I was calling it a wish list to try to make it sound like I was flexible. So I planned for an unmedicated birth. I planned to labor in a tub or a shower. I had a hospital birth, so it wasn't going to be like a water birth or anything like that, but planned to hopefully push like in a squatting position or all fours or something like that. I've done all my research and plans. I wanted it to be as like unmedicated and quote unquote natural as humanly possible. And of course wanted to go into labor naturally. So I was 39 weeks and 3 days. I woke up like at 3 a.m, and I had not had any Braxton Hicks contractions with him or anything. I woke up, I was like, oh, so that was a contraction. Immediately knew, like looked at the clock and was like, all right, start timing them. And it was like 7 minutes later, I had another, and I was like, oh, that was really close together. And so like, it was like 4 o'clock in the morning. So like, I tried to stay in bed, tried to rest, knew I needed to. It was like, it's probably going to be a long day. Finally got up at like 6:30 or 7 and just went like laid on the couch instead. And I was like kind of convinced like my water was like leaking. Like it wasn't like a gush broke, but I was like, I think it's leaking. It wasn't. Your cervix does other things when you have a baby that causes things, liquids to come out. But I didn't know that. No one warned me. So I thought my water had broken and it was just like preparing. But we like, I didn't tell my husband that I was having contractions. So we like went about our normal Sunday, went and got lunch with some friends, got home, finally got home, and I was like, I've been having contractions since 3:51 this morning, and I need to finish my grad school work because we're probably going to have a baby. So I like sat down and was like, I need to do these grad school papers. I was in grad school at the time. Was like trying to get that stuff done. Finally, I was like, okay, I'm going to call the doctor. I was like, I think my water broke. I think it broke. Like it's stuff is coming out. And she's like, okay, you need to come to the hospital. I'll meet you there. And I was like, all right, cool. But can I walk my dog first? Like I was like kind of in denial that I was in labor. And she's like, I'm going to tell you what, right now it's whatever time, I think it was 5. She's like, you need to be here at 6. She's like, whatever you want to do between now and then, you do. If you want to walk your dog, do it. I want to see you here at 6. So I was like, okay. So we went, got to the hospital at 6. I ate lunch that day, but I hadn't eaten anything since, so I was kind of getting hungry. We check in. They're like, your blood pressure is a little high. Your water hasn't broken. But my doctor is like, we're going to have a baby tonight because your blood pressure is high. And I'm like, well, duh, my blood pressure is high. I'm freaked out. I've never been admitted to a hospital before. This is terrifying. And like I said, I wanted to have like an unmedicated birth. She's like, so we're going to go ahead and induce you. And I was like, oh, no, you're not. I'm having an unmedicated birth. I told you that. So I let her break my water. And so she broke my water and everything was going fine. Like my contractions started getting a lot stronger. I was starving. My husband went to go get dinner because he also was starving, but they were like, you can't eat. And so he comes back to the room and is eating this like steak bowl from like Chipotle or whatever. And I was starving. But I told the nurse that I had the best nurse. Her name's Kelly G. I'll never forget her name. She was the best. I was like, I'm starving. I was like, I have this like RX bar. Can I eat it? And she was like, yeah, you can eat it. It might not be the best idea, but you can eat it. She was like, I won't tell the doctor. So I ate that. Labor got a lot more intense. The RX bar came back. Bite me as well as it can. But it was pretty quick. So like I got into the room at the hospital. It was like 7:30. And it was probably about 11:30 when they were like, okay, you can start pushing. So pretty quick, very fast. Like one of the things I will say, like, because they broke my water, I ended up laboring in bed a lot because every time I stood up, like more fluid was coming out. And like that just made me self-conscious, and that's something I wasn't expecting to feel self-conscious about in labor. And I never got into the tub or shower, even though there was one in that room. I don't know why. I just didn't. Like, I think it just happened so quickly. But so I stayed in bed a lot, and finally I was like, I need to get out of bed. And so I got out of bed, and they were like, you should probably use the bathroom. Like, we think you should go to the bathroom. So I went to go, like, pee, and I, like, couldn't relax enough to pee. I was like, if I relax, the baby's going to fall into the toilet. Like, it freaked me out. So they, like, checked me, and they're like, oh, yeah, you're ready. Let's go ahead and push out a baby. So I did. And so I think that, I started pushing. I'm like looking at my first story I wrote out at like 11:30. And it literally says, I remember thinking that I'd adopt my next baby because this was too hard. I don't remember that, actually. I'm glad I wrote this out, like, recently after having my baby, because I remember that labor being pretty easy. But he was born at 1:04 in the morning. So my sister's birthday, I went into labor on my sister's birthday, and she was always saying, I really hope that if you have the baby on my birthday, it's a girl, because we'll always do fun girl things on my birthday. But she's like, but if it's any day other than my birthday, I want it to be a boy, because she has a boy. And so he was a boy. And it was funny because when he was born, I was like, I want my husband to announce the gender. And so they threw this nasty wet baby on me, and I was like, it felt like probably 17 hours, but it was probably 5 seconds. And I was like, what is it? And my husband was frozen, just panicked. And so the doctor like lifts his legs like, it's a boy.
Aw.
So hindsight, I'm like rereading my birth story kind of, and it was like, oh, it was harder than I remember it. But I will say one of the things that like really stood out to me in that labor is like, as a CrossFitter, like we do a lot of workouts where it's like you work out for 3 minutes and then you have a 3-minute rest. And every workout I did leading up to having the baby, I was like, this is labor prep.
Yeah.
I get like really hard and then it gets great. And even during labor, I was like, during contractions and during pushing, I was like, hey, just do it as hard as you can. And then like during the break, I would like go into like some weird Zen place and just like stop my breathing and like get my heart rate back down like crazy fast. I don't know how I did it because I did not do that in my second birth. But I was able to just like regain control. And the doctor was like, that was one of the most controlled births I've ever seen.
Aw. That's so
it was
cool.
wild.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's awesome that you have like that tool.
Yeah. I mean, I just like had to figure out a way to like make labor feel like something I'd done before.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I convinced myself. But my second birth was really same and different. I was induced at 39 weeks and 4 days. For a different reason. They said the baby was measuring huge and I had to get it out. So they induced me like at 8-something in the morning by breaking my water because I was having an unmedicated birth. It was the first time, don't you dare give me Pitocin. And I was convinced that like they're going to break my water at 8:30 in the morning or whatever. And I'm going to have Chick-fil-A for lunch. I was like, so my husband's like, Diane, you need to have my Chick-fil-A order ready. You're going to go pick it up once the baby is out. It got to like 11:30 in the morning. We're like very clearly not having the baby. So he like, got some food and whatever. And the nurse snuck me some food, even though she was like, you're going to see it again. And I was like, I've been told. But I was really hungry. And so she let me eat some more, which was really nice. I got to deliver in the same room I delivered in with my first, which was kind of cool.
Oh, that's
and
cool.
the nurse that I had was not Kelly G. That's all I'm going to say about her. She was fine. She was not the same. And she actually, they were like, oh, do you want to leave early? There's not a lot of action on this hall today. So she left me. I was like, how dare you? Kelly G never would have left me. So I got a different nurse halfway through the day, not at shift change. But it was just really slowly. So my husband and I binge watched this stupid show called Kim's Convenience on Netflix because labor was not picking up. And it didn't pick up until about 4:30. So it's just this really slow labor until then. I kept asking my new nurse, who was also not Kelly G, but she was nice. Her name was Jenny, to check me. And she was like, no, you're not making progress. And then at 4:30, it was or maybe it was 4 o'clock. It was oh my gosh, this is really bad. And it was intense pain. I couldn't control. I couldn't calm myself down between contractions. It was, I was so scared. And I kept being I have to push. I can't keep doing this. I needed to feel like I had some control. So finally the nurse texted me at 4:30 and she's like, okay, I'll call the doctor. And at 5:05 or something, Russell was born. And as soon as he came out, the doctor laughed and said, oh, he's funny side up.
Oh.
So mad. mad. I was like, that's why it hurt so bad.
Yeah.
But as soon as she's pretty sunny side up, so when she picked him up, he was facing me, so I immediately thought it was a boy. I was wanting another boy, so I was thrilled.
Aww.
And I did not forget all the pain he put me through. It wasn't like an immediate freak out kind of thing. I knew immediately. But I was really excited it was a boy. Yeah, so that was kind of the big difference, was just like the lack of control I felt during labor. So terrified of the pain. Like, if I have another baby, I will probably get an epidural because I don't want to experience that again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I literally had the same experience, sunny side up, and I was like, I can't control myself anymore. I have to get the epidural right now.
And I don't know, because again, I labored on my back. Again, I went in not planning to labor on my back, planning to labor in different positions. And because like I had like several hours of like nothing happening, I did walk around the room a lot, did a lot of like bouncing on a ball and stuff. But once labor got intense, I was terrified. So I did like labor on my side with like a peanut ball for a while, because they were like, oh, like one side of your cervix isn't dilating as much. We want you to stay on your side. So like once they rolled me onto my back, I was paralyzed. Like, I might as well have had an epidural, but I could feel it paralyzed.
Yeah.
And I'm like, maybe if I had been able to switch positions, like the pain on my back wouldn't have been as bad, or maybe he would have managed to twist around or something. But it was, I don't know. I literally don't know if I'll have another kid. I love that kid up there, but I don't know.
Yeah.
He put me through it.
Oh my God.
And he still did.
Gosh. I feel like with my second, it was very much more intense too. Not because of the position or anything, just because like my body was like, you've done this, like get it out,
Yeah.
all systems go. And I remember right after being like, I'm never doing that again. That was way worse than first.
Well, the funny thing, so my sister, she and I, our kids are spaced about the same apart. So like, her kids are 2 years apart. My kids are a little more than 2 years apart, but 6 months later. So her second kid that she had in July, and mine was born in April. So I guess that's like 10 months, 9 months. I'm bad at math. But she was like, oh, yeah, she came out like a slip and slide. I only had to push 3 times. Like, your second labor is going to be so much easier. So I also had gone in not really thinking about, like, it could be very different than my first. I went in really thinking it's going to be so much easier. It's going to pop right out. I'm going to push 3 times. I'm going to sneeze this thing out, whatever. And it just wasn't like that. So, like, I think a lot of moms go into a lot of experiences, like listening to a family member or a close friend who's had an experience, and they're like, mine will be just like yours.
Yeah.
And it wasn't. And that was really shocking to me. That's true of like my postpartum experience too. Like, I listened to a really close friend, and we're still close friends, and I love her dearly, but I strongly regret taking some of her advice. But yeah, I mean, I regret listening to my sister tell me, oh yeah, baby will come out, no problem.
Just slip and slide.
Yeah, literally. She was like, I like push 3 times and then leave.
Oh my gosh.
That was not my experience at all.
It seemed like you progressed really quickly once the water was broken, though.
What's that?
It seemed like you progressed really quickly after the water was broken. Like, how long were you in, like, active labor?
With the second one, it was like nothing was happening for the longest time. So, like, I don't think that I really started feeling like contractions were getting bad until like 3:30 or 3:45 in the afternoon. And they like induced me at 8. They broke my water around 8.
Okay.
Or 9:30. I'm trying to scroll back and see if I can see it. But yeah, so they broke my water around like 9:30. Oh, 9:18 apparently. So it was a while doing nothing.
Yeah.
And then once it got to active labor was like an hour. One of the worst hours of my life. So it was quick, but I think, if they had given me Pitocin, probably it would have been a much faster labor, but it probably would have also been as painful. Because I've heard Pitocin contractions are really painful. I've never experienced them.
I haven't either.
Same.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Crazy
was
births.
a lot.
Yeah. Those sunny side up babies are no joke.
know. One of my friends was like, oh, yeah, he's your wild card baby. And every day of his life since then has been a wild card. So he is definitely his own little person compared to his brother. I'm like, dude, sometimes when he's doing something, I'm like, this is because he came out sunny side up. Oh, this is how your life started, and this is how you're going to go. And I like look at him, I'm like, I don't know if I can have another, because I don't know if he can be a middle child. He's amazing. I love him so much. He's a handful. He's very different.
Yeah. Those second children.
Child.
Yeah.
I think you're like so like I don't know. I mean, I felt like like this first baby like wasn't so bad. Like I had a challenging time postpartum, but not necessarily because of the baby. It was just because of my own self. But then the second one, I mean, he was fairly similar in the young baby stage of things, but he has got a personality. So,
Man, they're fun but wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of your postpartum, I know that's a big part of what you do now. So why don't we get into all of that jazz?
Yeah. So postpartum was my first. It was interesting. So I came home from the hospital, like however many days they tell you to stay. They actually let me stay because my baby was born at 1 a.m. So that was a night, but didn't count as a night. So I got a bonus night in the hospital. Highly recommend. Let's stay as long as you can. My biggest regret with my second was that I was like, please let me go home. That was a horrible mistake. But with the second we came home, or with the first we came home from the hospital, and we had family come to town the next day. Thinking that was going to be, and it was really helpful. I was thankful to have family there, but it was a very delicate and sensitive time where all of these changes were happening to my body. And I'm kind of a private person, especially around my in-laws and stuff like that. So my in-laws came to my husband's parents, his brother, and his little sister. There's a lot of people in the house when liquids were coming out of parts of my body I didn't know they could come out of.
Yeah. That's a lot.
It's like dealing with all the hormone crashes, and it was really hard on me, but just emotionally. And so that was kind of set me up for having a challenging postpartum period, I feel because I didn't come home to a very restful, calm feeling situation. And we actually invited them. I thought that it would be a really good idea for his parents to come, because my parents I knew would not be helpful. So we're like, oh, you guys can come right when the baby comes. I just didn't really take into account how comfortable immediately after having a baby, or how uncomfortable I'd feel immediately after having a baby with people in my house.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it would have been any better with my own mom and dad there. But so it was a really challenging week with guests in the house, feeling like I needed to entertain, feeling like I needed to keep the house to a certain level of cleanliness when I was also not sleeping, not sitting, I'm not, just trying to figure out how to feed this baby and all of that, and dealing with engorgement and all the fun things.
Mm-hmm.
That was a really challenging first little bit. And then I'm really thankful my husband, the company he works for, he gets 6 months of paternity leave, which is unheard of.
Months?
He didn't take it all.
What?
You want to pass some of that over here? Oh my God.
I got 12 weeks, which I was very thankful for that he got.
Oh my
So
God.
he was home. He only took a month at the beginning. I think it was a month at the beginning, but it was really nice to have him there to help and just not feel alone in that season, because I think from the moms I talked to, a lot of moms who start experiencing postpartum anxiety and depression, from what I've been able to connect dots, they don't have as much help as they need in those early postpartum days, and they start feeling really alone really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So I was thankful to have him there. I think it kind of curbed some of those postpartum emotions I could have experienced. But when I got to be cleared to work out again, and this is where I listened to a friend I shouldn't have. Before I was cleared to work out, I started running. Because she's like, oh, I did. I started running before I was cleared to work out. It's fine. So I did too. I didn't take it easy at all with my first. I was walking around the neighborhood like 3 days postpartum.
Oh, wow.
I really regret that. Some moms, I guess, can do that, but like I have like a lot of pelvic issues now, and I think like if I'd given myself the break I needed, maybe I still would have those issues, but at least I wouldn't be able to think I did it to myself. Because now I'm like, oh, was it that I started running too soon? Is that why I have these issues? Is it because I didn't rest? Like my postpartum bleeding lasted way longer than I feel like it probably should have because I didn't rest. I didn't give my body the time it needed to heal.
Yeah.
So when I was able to work out, I didn't go back to CrossFit it was 12 weeks before I went back, but probably like 10 weeks in. I mean, I ran a 5K 7 weeks postpartum.
What?
Just like how stupid I am.
Oh my God.
But like, I quickly realized like there was something not right about my pelvic floor, but like I talked to my doctor about it on my 6-week check, and she's like, that's just how it is now. That's just how it's going to be. Didn't refer me to PT. She's like, just accept it. And I was like, okay, well, I can't live like this. I can't go on like this. I didn't know what to like say was wrong because I didn't have like the language for it. No one was telling me what was wrong with me. So how would I know?
Yeah.
But eventually, like, I just spent way too much time on the internet, like you do as your mom, and like figured out that I had a prolapse. So once I figured it out and figured out, okay, I can go to pelvic floor PT and like advocate for myself and get the help I need, I was able to like address my symptoms and like mostly manage them now. But like,
Yeah.
I mean, I think like if I hadn't been able to figure it out when I did, like that's what would have prompted me to have like true postpartum depression that like would have needed to be treated. Because I was devastated. I was like, I'm not going to be able to run anymore. I'm not going to be able to do CrossFit. I don't even know if I can pick up my baby safely. Like devastated. Like I said, PT saved me. I tell my PT that all the time. So those are like the big, I didn't have family in town. That's another thing about postpartum. Thankfully, breastfeeding came really naturally to me and my baby. So like we had that going for us. I had like a huge oversupply, which is a blessing and a curse. I recognize for like any mom who doesn't have an oversupply, that sounds like a huge blessing. But like I got mastitis several times, had clogged ducts all the time. But with an oversupply, I was thankful I could donate like the milk that I had. That was extra. So I like found a mom who couldn't produce it all, and she was also a gourmet chef, so she cooked for me, and I had her baby, and it was a really nice relationship that we formed.
That's so awesome.
Perfect trade.
Yeah.
So it was really cool getting to like provide for another baby because I was like, I don't need this. And I was too lazy. Like I could have probably donated to like the NICU at the hospital, but you have to like do all these blood tests and do all this stuff to get approved. And I was like, this feels stupid. And I found like a Facebook group for milk donation and just like waited until I found someone that seemed like a person that I jived with and could donate my milk to. So my first postpartum experience, it was just really lonely, and I didn't have a lot of help, and like felt like I had to make decisions that I didn't know how to make, which kind of led me to feel like there's got to be something out there that can help me have a better experience. And my second experience was better. Like I didn't let it was COVID, so I had a really good excuse to not let anyone come see my baby or come to my house. My little sister-in-law was staying with us because we needed someone to watch our older one when we were at the hospital. So she came and stayed before he was born, and then stayed with us a couple weeks after. But no one, I just didn't let anybody come. And I was like, sorry. COVID. And that was like better for me to just kind of keep everything within our own family. I will say we opted, like, so we had the baby at like 5 o'clock on his birthday, April 8th. And then during COVID time at the hospital, they'll pretty much be like, do you want to go home? So like the next morning, this baby is not even 14 hours old. They're like, do you want to stay tonight? Do you think you want to go home today? And I was like, we want to go home. Like we want to go see the older kid. We want to relieve my little sister-in-law. We want to go home. And that was a huge mistake because, you know, the whole thing of like babies wake up their second 24 hours. So like he was very sleepy in the hospital. They won't let you leave until the baby's 24 hours old because they have to run some tests at 24 hours.
Yeah.
So we get home like 6 o'clock or whatever. Fine. He's starting to wake up a little bit. That night was like one of the worst nights of my life.
Oh, man.
It was terrible. He didn't sleep. My husband did. And I had this baby, and it was horrible. So I would like always recommend to moms that they give you a choice stay at the hospital.
Yes, I recommend that too.
Your older kid will not miss you for one extra night. Stay there. Send the baby to the nursery. Get a little bit of sleep and stay.
Good to know.
It was a big stress. But yeah, postpartum with him, like he again was a good nurser. Again, got lots of mastitis and stuff. I was like transitioning jobs, so that was probably one of the harder parts of it. But again, it just was like really lonely. I didn't have the help I needed. Didn't really feel like I could like ask anyone questions. So I would like turn to the internet a lot, and like you could like Google what should I do about swaddling my baby or something, and there's 47 answers, and they are all the right answer. And I was like, this is overwhelming. And then like, which bottle is the best bottle for breastfed baby? And there's 47 answers, and my baby never took a bottle, and that was very overwhelming and stressful for me. But like, it was just like information overload. And so really after having my second, like one day I was jacked up on talking to my husband. I was like, I have this idea, and I think I want to be a postpartum doula, but not a doula, but I want to help new moms like be prepared for postpartum. And I want to be the person who's there to like help them walk through and navigate the hard season that is postpartum, so that they don't have to turn to the dark place that is the internet. And they don't have to ask their friends, because it's awkward to ask your friend and be like, I talk about anything, whatever, to be like, I have heaviness in my pelvis. Can you help me figure out what that is? Like, do you experience that, friend? That's awkward, right? But if you ask someone you don't know and don't care, like, it's not awkward for someone to ask me something or to talk about their like cracked bleeding nipples to me because I'm not their friend. And I say that in a place like I love all of my clients, but like it makes a difference to have someone you can talk to that's not your friend you're asking for advice, because friends are not going to be there for you necessarily exactly when they need you to be. And so all that to say, I was like talking to my husband, I was like, I want to be that person for people who like they can ask me things, talk to me about those awkward things that they're not even comfortable talking to their friends about, and I can help them navigate it. Which put me on the path to what I do now is coach pregnant and postpartum moms, help them be prepared for postpartum, have all the supplies they need on hand for postpartum so that they're not, when my first was born, I didn't have pads at home because I didn't know I was going to need that when I got home from the hospital. Right. So I called my friend, because my friend was texting me. She was like, do you need anything? How's it going? And I called her and I was like, I actually do need things. And my in-laws are in my house. I'm like, I need you to go to CVS. I need you to buy me some Depends. I need you to buy a gift bag and put them in the gift bag and wrap them and bring them into my home. And I was like, you cannot bring that into my home. And my father-in-law. So like, she to my house with like a baby gift bag. And I was like, oh, Danielle, come upstairs. Like, come, whatever. Like, snuck her upstairs so she could give me like these Depends and stool softener or something, because I was so embarrassed. So like, no mom should have to do that.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think things are getting better to where people talk about stuff more, but like if I 3 years ago didn't know I would needed to bring pads at home when I left the hospital, that's awesome. And that means there's a lot of other moms who are in that same boat. And that's just one example of like a very tiny example that's easy to fix. But like I help moms, and some people like navigate, like, do you want to have family at home quickly after you have your baby, and like talk through like the pros and cons and help people make those types of decisions, like how to prepare their home for baby. Like if you have a 2-story house, you might want a diaper changing station downstairs. I didn't know that. I walked into my house with my first baby. My dog's like jumping on me. I have this brand new baby. I'm bleeding and everything. And I like looked around the house. I was like, where do I put him? I really need to use the bathroom. Because I had a really cute nursery, but I didn't have anything downstairs for the baby. And those kind of things, I'm like, if I've experienced that, other people are in the same boat. So I work with a lot of first-time moms who kind of are as clueless as I was.
Yeah, that sounds like a really good resource.
That's amazing.
I would have definitely used your services as a first-time mom for sure.
I think even just like with just having those conversations, I feel like a lot of my friends tell me how overwhelmed they were having people over so quickly. And I'm like, there should be like conversations on like how to navigate that. Like, hold on. I actually just like went through a lot.
Yeah. I like kind of work through like with some new moms and like, okay, if you're planning on having people over, I think that's great if that's what you're comfortable with. You need to kind of have like a stock list of things you can tell them you want them to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like when they walk in the door, you can be like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you're here. This is baby Rosie. Do you mind washing the dishes for me? Or like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you're here. This is baby Rosie. Hold her. I'm going to go take a bath or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Because like, I don't think that any new mom should have to feel like they're entertaining when they're bleeding.
Yeah.
Like, that's too much. And I think that, you know, when you invite another mom into your house, they kind of know because they've experienced it. But even then, like, even just people who are just a few years past the postpartum experience, they quickly forget. And like, I mean, I had a friend come over and they're just kind of sitting there and like, they're like, and they've been at my house for like 10 minutes and then they're finally like, do you mind taking a drink? And I was like, no, not at all. But like, it made me feel guilty that I didn't offer them a drink the moment they walked through the door. And like, I shouldn't have had to feel guilty about that. Like, I mean, I literally want to like, if I have another baby, like have a sign that says like, drinks are in the fridge, take whatever you want. Like, don't like, I'm not going to offer, so don't ask.
Yeah.
Like,
I've got too many other
make yourself
things.
at home because I don't have the capacity to be a host right now.
Yeah.
Or only invite people over that are already comfortable getting their own drinks. Or I remember after having Arthur. Yeah, and drinks for me too, please. But yeah, I remember when we got home with Arthur, I don't remember who was coming over, but I had labored at home for a long time and our house was a literal disaster. Towels everywhere. I mean, there's probably still amniotic fluid on the floor. And I remember having to clean up the house so that we could have guests come over and make it look like we had it all together, you know? But like, yeah, I remember then like you talked about, you did a lot when you were postpartum and you bled for a lot longer. I remember they did tell me that if you start bleeding more, that's your sign to rest. So
I'm glad someone told you that because nobody told me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And with my second, I almost think I like went in the other direction of like I told my husband like I was like for the first 3 days like I'm staying in our bedroom. Like I'll come downstairs to eat dinner with everybody, but like I'm staying in my bedroom upstairs in my bed. Do not let me go for walks. Like I need to rest. And I was like, okay, for the next few days, like I can walk to the stop sign and back. Don't let me go further. And I like really like got him to keep me like forcing myself to rest because you feel better pretty quickly. I mean, I haven't had the C-section, so I can't say how that is, but like, I mean, I felt like I could do more than I should have been doing. So I like needed somebody to like pump the brakes for me. So I like prepared him to be that person because I was like, I don't think that I'll be able to pump the brakes for myself yet.
Yeah.
Isn't there a term for that? Like the lion period or something?
Yeah, the line.
I forget. Yeah.
I heard like a week in bed, a week by your bed, and then I forget what the third week I read something like. But like, yeah, spend a week in bed, spend a week by your bed, and then maybe a week in your house. I don't know what it is. But, I mean, kind of that whole idea of like, yeah, really taking it easy and not doing too much.
Yeah. I've never heard of that, but now I'm like, oh, that's all I want. I'm happy you had those conversations with your husband. I think that was super needed. And like, you know, you had them before you were in postpartum. So I think that's like what I did with my husband regarding like the depression. I was like, look out for this and look out for this. Like we had those conversations. I think they're so important to have because we love those men, but they might be a little clueless.
You know, and they are going through their own like postpartum shift.
Yeah.
Like I try to like remember that, like, because I know like some husbands like really withdraw when there's a new baby in the house, like because they feel maybe inadequate, they don't know how to navigate helping with a new baby or whatever the case may be. But like, yeah, it's such a delicate time for both a new mom and a new dad that it's like the more you talk about things up front, the more you prepare for it up front, the more successful you're going to be when the baby comes home. And with my first, we didn't talk about prepare for any of that. And it's a dumpster fire.
Yeah.
But yeah, like with my second postpartum experience, it was better because we did have a plan in place. And that helps. And so it's like, I want moms who are first-time moms to go ahead and have that plan in place the first time so that they aren't miserable.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
So many moms hate the early postpartum phase, and I truly think it can be magical and the best time.
Yeah. If you plan for it, I want to. Yeah, a postpartum plan is just so important, and everyone should have one.
Yeah.
We have a birth plan, but why not a postpartum plan?
That's so true.
Yeah. Honestly, I mean, the birth is one day, right? Maybe 36 hours, or they're going to make you have the baby no matter what. So, postpartum is a much longer season. I mean, birth is hard, but, postpartum is, in a lot of ways, harder. Because, I mean, there is an end to birth in sight, even if it's not your ideal end and you have to have a C-section or whatever. But, postpartum is lingering.
Yeah.
That's just something I didn't really think about before having a baby.
Yeah.
Same.
And a lot of the moms I work with who have already had their baby are like, why didn't I think to plan for this and have these conversations ahead of time? Because once you're in it and everyone's just in survival mode, it's hard to talk through okay, let's right the ship. Hard.
Yes. Yeah. It's really hard when you're in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for just our listeners and clients and stuff, so when a client reaches out to you and wants to kind of set up that plan, what do your first conversations look like and how does everything go from there?
So, sorry, my monitor just beeped. I was turning it off. Really, it depends on what stage the mom is in and what she's struggling with. So everything I do is super customizable and tailored to every individual mom I work with. But for new moms, I've found that they don't know what questions to ask a lot of times. So I have kind of written out here are the things that I want to cover. I share with the moms, and some of them are like, yeah, this sounds great. Some of them are like, I already know about this. I want to focus in more on this other area. But a lot of first-time moms, if I start working with them when they're pregnant, a lot of what we work on is preparing for that postpartum period. I'm not a physical therapist. I can talk to you about birthing positions and your options, but I can't really talk to you about the physiology, I don't even know if that's the right word, behind why those different birth positions are better than others or whatever. So I don't pretend to do that. I just tell moms, hey, here's 7 physical therapists in Atlanta that I recommend. They're all awesome. Go see one. And I'll talk to them. I can help them some, but I'm not going to pretend to know more than I know. But to think through, preparing your space for postpartum, I definitely talk to new moms about that. Sure, your nursery's cute. Sure, it's on Instagram, whatever. It's awesome. So, also make your space work for you, and how are we going to do that? So we spend a lot of time talking about preparing the space, and some time talking about preparing the body. Again, I kind of refer out for that because I'm not an expert. I'm learning a lot, but I don't think that there's I cannot replace what a physical therapist can help a mom do, because they can talk about how to prevent tearing and things like that. They know more about it than I do. And then preparing the mind for postpartum, talking through what postpartum depression is, the warning signs, kind of sharing that information with a partner ahead of time so that you have other people looking for it, because it's really hard to recognize those things in yourself a lot.
Yeah.
And also, with preparing the mind, I link it in there, but, creating the routines that are going to help you survive. So, we talk about, okay, how are you going to hand off so that each of you get enough sleep to survive this? Because once you're in the sleep deprivation place, it's so hard to come out of it. There's so many irrational things happening. It can kick you into postpartum depression. If both partners are sleep deprived, it's even worse. So we talk about that, and then sometimes preparing the partner. So I think I said, well, I prepare the mind, body, space, and partner for postpartum. So when we're preparing the partner, we talk about talking through that, like, who do you want to come into your space when your new baby is home?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want anyone there? And when moms say, oh, yeah, I'm having my in-laws come the day after my baby comes home, I'm like, okay, do you feel comfortable showing your father-in-law your naked boob? Because if you don't, like, you might want to reconsider that.
Mm-hmm.
Or, like, you know, like, those types of things. So just, like, really getting moms to think about, like, how fragile they're going to feel in that postpartum phase and, like, who they want to let into that space. And I try not to scare them, but I also want them to know, like, what it's really going to be like.
Mm-hmm.
So we, like, spend a lot of time kind of just thinking through what the postpartum phase will be. And then I stay along with them into postpartum so that once we're, like, breastfeeding and having troubles or not, we can talk through those types of things and navigate them together. I have a big list of lactation consultants I refer moms to as well. You know, make sure they have who they need in their team, because I know I didn't.
Yeah.
Like, I'd love for every mom to know, like, maybe I won't need pelvic floor physical therapy, but if I do, I already have a number to call.
Mm-hmm.
And I already know that I can tell my doctor, I'm going to do this and you're going to refer me.
Yeah.
Because I didn't even know what it was and no one referred me. So.
Yeah. Have you had clients that have had a doula?
So I've had clients that have had a birth doula.
Mm-hmm.
I've had clients ask me the difference between, like, a postpartum doula and what I do. And I haven't had any clients yet who have had both. But, I mean, to me, like, what I've shared with them kind of, like, I think I shared with you guys is, like, the difference between a postpartum doula is they're doing a lot for you, right? Like, they're cooking some meals. They might be doing some housework or even grocery shopping or helping you care for your older child. But you pay a postpartum doula for a certain amount of time and then they leave, and you still at some point have to figure out how to function with this new baby on your own without a postpartum doula. So, like, what I'm doing is teaching the parents how to function on their own with this new baby. And some of what I do is very similar. Like, I mean, I help with feeding struggles, and doulas do too. Like, I can help moms with, like, different positions and things like that. I help moms process birth stories, and that's really important to me because I think that kind of sets you up with what kind of parent you want to be. And some doulas do that type of thing too, but at the end of the day, the doula leaves, and you may feel more equipped than you did before having a postpartum doula, but, like, my goal is that moms feel equipped and confident to parent their children and know what kind of parent they want to be.
Yeah. Wow.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it all.
Same.
I am, like, I had an idea of what you did, but, like, just hearing it, it makes so much sense. And we need more of you.
Yes. 100%.
Can you come to St. Louis?
I'll make more of me to go around. And I will say, like, for listeners, like, a lot of what I do is virtual. I mean, of course, I love offering hands-on support to moms, and I love holding cute, precious new babies. But a lot of what we do, because it is talking through those routines or talking through how to get your partner on board with being the support person you need, I don't need to be there in person. And for things where it's like we're struggling with, like, you know, breastfeeding positions, something like that, like, that can be done virtually. I do refer out to lactation people most of the time, but, like, I mean, I can help you with, like, posture and breastfeeding positions if you have bloody nipples and sending to somebody who's more of an expert. But all that to say, I do a lot of virtual. Most of what I do is virtual with my clients who don't even always meet on Zoom. Sometimes it's just on the phone. So for listeners that aren't in Atlanta, I can still definitely help.
That's awesome.
Wow, that's awesome. Well, do you have anything else to share about your pregnancy or postpartum? And then why don't you tell everybody, like, where they can find your information and your website and everything?
I think the biggest thing that I would share is, I know it's hard to enjoy pregnancy, especially when you're feeling really sick, but, you know, like, I think you're always going to look back and in some way miss that period. So as much as cliche and dumb as it sounds, like, try to enjoy it because it's such a short period. And the same thing, like, you know, I hate the whole, like, oh, you're going to miss this when a kid's tantruming in the middle of Publix or whatever, but, like, I try every day, like, before I go to bed, to just think of like something that was really sweet with my kids or something ridiculous. I can tell a ridiculous story. Like my oldest child, he's 3.5, and earlier this week, my husband's been isolating with COVID, and we talk about bodies with their anatomical body parts for what it's worth. But my son comes up to me and he says, "Mommy, I have a surprise for you." And I'm like, "Okay, great." And I'm nursing the younger baby while he does this, and he pulls up his shirt. He's wearing underwear. He pulls up his shirt and he goes, "My penis is hanging out." Like, that's a ridiculous thing, but like that is like, I mean, it was a really long day that day, but I went to bed laughing because like kids are ridiculous and funny. So like, I just think, as much as we can as moms, like we're going to be overwhelmed, tired, stressed, all those things, but just try to find that one thing that happened today that like made you smile that your kid did, because it will carry you into the next day and waking up knowing you're going to be tired, overwhelmed, and stressed again. But they're really funny.
Yeah, I love that. That's really good advice.
Ridiculous story. I feel like I should start writing them down. But that was ridiculous. But yeah, so you guys, listeners, can find me on Instagram. I'm at Resurgens, it's RESURGENS _postpartum. Resurgens because Atlanta is known as like the city of resurgence because it burned down like during the Civil War or something, and then it rebirthed out of the fire like a phoenix had a resurgence. So that's where Resurgens Postpartum came from, because I think that when we're new moms, like we are rebirthed as a new mom, kind of out of maybe the ring of fire, if I want to get really goofy. But we're birthed too and like become a new person when we have a baby. So that kind of resonated with me when I was coming up with this name.
Oh, I love that.
That's a good name. Yeah, and we'll post your Instagram and everything in our show notes for everyone to they can click on it.
Yeah.
They can click.
Questions, whatever.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. It was so lovely to get to know more about you and your family and Resurgens. I love it all. It was so amazing to hear. I think we need all the support we can get.
Well, thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it, and just love talking about birth and babies. So it's really great time.
Ditto.
Yep. All day.
All right.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah. You can we'll post my Instagram and Liz's Instagram. And if you're interested in sharing your story with us, please don't feel ashamed to reach out. We love it all. You can go to our website and fill out our intake form.
Or just send us a DM on Instagram, whatever.
Send to our DMs.
Yeah. We're easy. And then if you don't mind, if you could just give us a little 5-star review. If you have enjoyed this episode, it would really help us out to get in the ears of more listeners.
Yeah. All right. We'll see you guys next episode.
Thank you.
There's a story with bears in the pantry, stealing all of my sweet, sweet honey. How can I sleep with these bears all around me? How can I sleep when their hands are so sticky? Pick me up, never let me down. Oh, the ground is lava, I'm not a lava man. Here comes mama with a stool and a whip, and she'll snap those bears into shape real quick, and they'll stand in line with their money spent to see the boy with the eyes that never quit. Pick me up, never let me down. Oh, the ground is lava, I'm not a lava man. There was a rumble in the jungle once. I heard Dad was outside again counting birds, and Mama plugged in a nightlight and I saw the queen of the world. Mama plugged in the nightlight and I saw the queen of the world. Pick me up, never let me down. Oh, the ground is lava, I'm not a lava man. Pick me up, never let me down. Oh, the ground is lava, I'm not a lava man. I'm not a lava man. No, I'm not a lava